We decided to visit Our Lady of Hope Roman Catholic Church on Broad Street.
So we just got back from the service. We attended a service that was in Spanish. So basically there were a lot of Hispanic or Latino people there. It was pretty diverse in terms of age. There were some elder people, well, a good amount of elder people, but there was also a good amount of families that attended. I know that there are also services in English and Tagalog. So had Audrey and I attended one of those services, it probably would have been a lot of people of Filipino descent. And then for the English service, I saw on their website that a part of their philosophy is using apostles that are Hispanic, Filipino, and Black. And since a large majority of the residential community around the church is African American, I would assume the service diversity is in alignment with that. And then before and after the service, people were not that conversational like I thought they would be. I think of churches as very community oriented, which they were very welcoming of us, but I thought there would definitely be more conversations amongst families. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture, which is very important for this church. They actually have a tab on their website that's dedicated just to the architecture. And under this tab, there are two pictures. This is the first one and the second one. So for this first one is the Durham Cathedral in England, and this is what Our Lady of Hope took its architectural inspiration from, which is shown here. And so this is all French Romanesque as well as European cathedral architecture. Some key things about the French Romanesque architecture that are shown here are the stained glass windows, the tall steeple, which I know for Our Lady of Hope, I could see it from blocks away, the hallways with high ceilings, and I also know in the actual nave, although everything was eye-catching all around, everything somehow directed your attention directly to the altar, and the altar, by the way, at Our Lady of Hope was marble, and it was very tall. All of this would fall under the material dimension of religion. I also noticed that people blessed themselves with holy water as they entered and exited the church, so that would be ritual, and the transubstantiation part would be philosophical. To get to the church, some people drove and some people walked. It was actually a lot shorter than I thought. It was about 45 minutes. The service started out with what seemed like a greeting, and then there was a prayer, and after that they went into the readings and the sermon, and then after was the peace and communion, and I'm pretty sure I could tell when this transubstantiation part happened. Obviously, we couldn't understand any of it, but we understand the order of the events for the most part. I would describe the event as very organized. It seemed like everyone knew exactly where to go and what to do for everything.
Religious roles. The kind of religious leadership that was present during the event was a priest. The congregation made up the majority of the people participating and attending the service. Both men and women were inside the church for the service. There were people of all ages attending the Mass. There was a good amount of elderly people in attendance, but also a good amount of families. There was also a designated clergy, being that there was a priest. Religious symbols. The religious symbols, icons, and images that were most prominent was that there were many windows with stained glass. There was also crosses and statues inside the church. Members of the community may wear crosses or crucifixion necklaces or have rosaries with them during the service. The cross represents the crucifixion, and the rosary represents Mary. Books. The sacred text that was used during the event was the Bible. The Bible was treated and handled with great respect and caution, since it is the sacred scripture. It was kept on the altar so the priest could read from it. The Bible was read during the Mass by the priest. There was also hymnals that were used during the service. Ritual enactments. I would describe the whole event as a ritual enactment. For example, when you stand, when the priest reads from the Bible, the prayers and the readings and sermons. There were times when the congregation would stand, for example, when the priest would read from the Bible. Since the whole Mass could be considered a ritual enactment, everything that is done by the priest and congregation structure the Mass. Everyone in the congregation seemed to be taking in and believing what was being said throughout the entire service. The community in the city and in America.
This is the church. It's on Broad Street. It's mostly residential.
The church was placed in between houses and small businesses, and a large amount of the residential community surrounding the church was Black. The community may be involved with other religious communities in the area, though I did not see any other churches, synagogues, temples, or mosques in the area. The church may be involved in interfaith efforts and programs, as well as civic and political affairs, but it did not seem to be advertised while we were there, considering the event we attended was all in Spanish.
While visiting, we tried to defamiliarize our own religions. We spoke to a woman who was a part of the congregation. At first, she was kind of confused, so we didn't speak to her for too long, but she was welcoming overall. Just from doing some preliminary research, I was expecting there to be a small amount of people, considering it's in Spanish, and they have several services a week. But afterwards, I realized I was wrong. A large amount of people gathered to attend church. And the biggest question I had after I left was how this differs from an English Mass. I wonder if the routine is any different or if it's the same, even if they're both at Our Lady of Hope. And I think for the most part they would be in alignment, but I'm not sure. Overall, we learned the basic organization of a Catholic Mass and what the congregation does when they get to church.
And here's a photo of us standing in front of the church.